I don't know if you listen to me correctly, but welcome to another EUniverse live show. This is our fourth show, I think, this split, but it's going to be a great show. European Masters groups have finished, so we're going to discuss about the groups and the main event, and of course, going on to the predictions for the quarterfinals. And I have to say that I'm really happy to be joined by this amazing lineup of ERL talent. I'm joined by Initialize from the LC, with Rev from the Greek League, and with Piotr from the Ultra Liga. I think I have to change the graphics because something has gone wrong. But welcome, guys. Initialize, how are you?
I'm doing really well. I am very pleased that both of my teams got out of groups. There was no sweat involved, and Bifrost didn't give me a heart attack about 40 times in the space of 3 hours. But yeah, I'm doing fine, just fine.
I'm pretty jealous about it because my teams gave me a heart attack. But we will be discussing that. Rev, how are you? How do you feel after the groups?
Well, I'm past the 06 depression part. Now I think I'm in the bargaining, telling to myself that, hey, next year will be better. But we'll see. I'm actually happy that I see some really good competition and not all the games are just strictly one-sided, so far at least.
You almost took X7 on that last game.
Yeah, but that was the part that got me closer to the bargaining immediately. But on the other side, then it pulled me way back into depression because why couldn't we play like that all of the games? Why only the last game? I don't get it.
That's the magic of the European Masters. Piotr, welcome. I know this is your first show in English, so don't be nervous. We don't bite. I swear. How are you after the groups?
I mean, I feel pretty good. Even though we had 4 slots and we have only one team in the quarters, I feel pretty good because we've been struggling with Agorok during the last year. We didn't get through the groups during summer and during spring. So it's a big relief that we finally are out of groups. I didn't expect it much from Team SK Gaming because of the group. It was really hard, and I'm still amazed that they have been able to win against Fnatic Team Keso, and they've been able to play a decent League of Legends. I think even though the result is not satisfying for us, I think the Ultraliga should be pretty happy about the results that we have and that our representative will be maybe a dark horse in this playoff run.
And I have to say that there's extra merit in there, considering that KCorp faced some problems with the lineup, with Leon being subbed by Vince in the last minute. I mean, I hope Leon is getting well. I really hope Leon is getting well. But of course, it's not the best situation for the team. With last time soup, but we will be talking about this on the next minutes, guys. I want to know your opinions about how was the group phase, how was the main event phase, because we had maybe some surprises. For example, in my opinion, I expected way more from the Primeleague first two seeds. It was a surprise for me that Gamer Legion and Eintracht Spandau got kicked out during the group phase. I don't know what's your opinion. Maybe not on this topic, but how do you feel about the groups initially? First.
I kind of expected the inverse between Gamer Legion and KCorp. Honestly, actually, I expected KCorp to be struggling a little bit more because I wasn't all that impressed with their early games, both from their playoff run and then from what I saw in play-ins. But they actually really turned up after the initial game against X7. They really turned up, and Gamer Legion on the other side, just like, I don't know, they just really weren't clicking. I think part of it as well for me was they couldn't activate the top side the way they normally did, and I grant you that's against Phantasma, Phantasma. It's Bacco, isn't it? Top lane is one of their better top laners anyway. And they got their wins there, but he's still pretty good. And then you've got Cabochard of all people, and then Jaeger, two incredible top laners with incredible top side players if they need to be, and that made quite tough. And then Eintracht turned it on the last sort of like day of groups for them, but it was a little too late for them to make anything happen, unfortunately. And they kind of didn't have the tiebreaker situation anyway, so. Yeah, massively disappointing for Primeleague, but Gamer Legion in particular, I'm shocked by how badly they performed, actually.
Yeah. I have to be agree. Go on.
Yeah, the thing is that I wouldn't expect so much from this roster. I'm talking about Gamer Legion, but because they've been the first seed, it's really disappointing that they ended up like the way it happened. Because I know Eshtik from Ultraliga, I know Sakura from Ultraliga, and I know Danka from Ultraliga back then. And I know these players have a lot of potential, but I wouldn't rate them as high as making it out of those groups. So, like, finally, the results were disappointing, and the style of the games was really something I didn't expect to see. But all in all, I'm not that surprised that they didn't make it out of groups. It's a really strange split for Primeleague, I feel like. Because, for example, SK Prime with Mystics, with Gadget, it was roster I was really hyped about, and I think they didn't even hit the playoffs in Primeleague is shocking for me. And I expected a lot from UOL, so I'm pretty glad that they are in the quarters. But all in all, it's a really strange topic for me, because I cannot really tell if the league is good or is it bad. What's the level? Is it better than, for example, Spanish teams or NLC teams, or not? Because like there's a lot of strange things going on with those teams.
I mean, it's hard to tell if a whole league is good or bad, or is better or worse, considering that league is a game that is constantly changing. Like, For example, we used to have in Spain some teams that performed incredibly well in the first half of the regular split, but suddenly the meta changes, you don't adapt quickly enough, and you fall short, and you miss players. In Spain, it happened, for example, with Team Heretics. Like, they had a roster, a very promising roster. They were expected to be in playoffs, but suddenly the meta changes and you're done, and you say goodbye to the playoffs and to the European Masters. So it's really hard to tell. But I expected way more from Gamer Legion, considering the incredible winning streak they achieved on the Primeleague. I was really amazed by that Gamer Legion, and they didn't have those big names all the teams you were talking about had, and that's why I was really shocked. I'm pretty sure you can swear, no? I can swear.
Yeah,
oh, thank you very much. I can
mean,
swear. I can say fucking.
I don't even think that it's the meta, which when the meta changes, it's that every single region has their own bubble of meta with the scrims, with all the competitive games going in, and when you get to a huge competition with all the other meta bubbles like struggling against each other.
I love
There's a
that.
new meta emerging within. We see that in every Worlds, in every MSI, the first games are really shaky, and then you have to adapt to that meta, and it's a huge struggle for many teams who think, hey, we know that this works for us. We have played this playstyle, and nothing's really changed in any items, any champions. But
Yeah.
then they just get outclassed from the draft and from the macro plays from
Yeah.
the other teams.
I mean, also for Gamer Legion, Danker and Wisdom were incredible domestically. Like they were just like they would win Sakurai his lane like so often, and they were actually kind of red, didn't get a lot done over the tournament. And then on top of that, S-Chick in the mid lane had a shocking tournament. Like he was just not good, unfortunately. He was handled. I mean, even in the game they won against Team Phantasma, that Ari from Pepe was very nearly got him the win there. Actually, in fact, honestly, that S-Chick early on in that game was put behind quite a long way on the LeBlanc. Then there's he went 1-8 versus Seiken. Tempt every time you saw him. Like there was the Vladimir game, and then there was the 12-1 Azir game. Like S-Chick was just not. He kind of got humbled a bit, unfortunately. So your 2-star roaming players in the jungle and support were a bit quiet, and then your mid laner got exposed. And I don't think that's going to be a frustrating one to take away, unfortunately, for Gamer Legion. I think.
Yeah, that's really sad for Eshtik, because it's a young Polish superstar, but he always struggled during the laning phase. But he was able to come back during the team fights and like playing 1v1 and
Right.
stuff like that. Yeah, and I was just hoping that maybe during this spring split he will get better at laning. But yeah, unfortunately those problems are still in place. But I hope he'll be better.
For
It's a great
summer.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the players grow, of course. I remember this year, this split, I was checking on past European Masters, and I checked on the plane, the 2018 summer plane, and I checked the names on that plane, and that was huge. The players that were competing in the European Masters plane of 2018, it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. You have, for example, you had Inspired competing back then on the plane. I mean,
Yeah.
you had incredible names going on in there. But going on with the group socket ref, I know you are depressed for the Series X, but you I mean, Team Phantasma had their highlights. I mean, initially I was talking about Pepe Sari, and we were so into Pepe on the Superliga stream.
So good.
I mean, Pepe's a hero here in Spain. I have to say that Pepe had a shocking performance in some games. For example, you guys had your highlights, but overall, did something shock you from the main event?
Well, to be honest, I'm a tad disappointed because I think that we showed up too eager to adapt to everyone else's meta, because we had our own strengths which could not be translated into the current pro play. They were not the best thing to choose strategically wise, but they worked for us, such as Pepe Zakali. There was some good. We saw once Bakos Camille, but really got into team fighting and nothing else. Almost all of our comps, if we go through them one by one, were team fight comps, and that's what disappointed me at that. Because yeah, it's a really good strategy. Don't get me wrong, but I think it really got players thinking that it's not my time to shine; it's the team times to shine, and they were playing a bit taken aback. They did not go as aggro as they wanted, and that's why in the first 3 games we saw players not really going for it, unless you count Nicolex's half-mile chase onto Reckless.
I mean, yeah, that happens a lot. I mean, when you step into the international event, something's happen and things change, and you have to answer so many things. Talking about this, we're talking about the main event. I would love to talk about the LFL NLC dominance, because it's shocking. I expected it somehow. Don't be so cocky. Don't be so cocky, HLS. Don't be so cocky.
I'm gonna have this moment. Like, look, I'm taking it this moment. I'm high on the copium. We're gonna end up in finals again. It's gonna be great. He says as he watches his first seed team go up against LDLC, who look horrifyingly strong. It's gonna be just fine.
Check on your words, because for real, so the chat, I just saw it. The fact is that the French league has 3 teams on the quarterfinals. Only BTS Academy missed quarterfinals, which for me is quite shocking, considering they were one of the favorites to take the tournament. Some people consider them even stronger than LDLC. Finals were in the French League a 3-2 for LDLC. It was really, really close. And for me, they fell short somehow. They were quite unrecognizable, as to say, during these European Masters. But they have 3 representatives on quarterfinals. NLC got both teams on quarterfinals, which I want to use this moment to say that NLC deserves a third slot.
Thank you.
I mean,
I agree. We really do. We could have had, I don't know, it would have been Dusty coming along, and that would have been hella exciting, because that would have been like Viking.
I felt
this
slot.
new guy called, this new guy called, what's his name, FGG, who was playing in Tier 3 tournaments this time last year. And not just Tier 3 tournaments, he was playing in UK Tier 3 tournaments before, because everything was obviously like split up into countries before it kind of combined into the global, or like the more regional thing of the NLC. So he's playing UK Tier 3. And this guy's gone from that to Tier 1 and being one of the best supports in the whole damn region. We could have had him here. We could have all those stories. It would have been incredible. Alas, we don't. We've only got 2 seeds. But we've got an 83% win rate, not including tiebreakers.
And we don't have to take seeds from anyone. We can create another seed for the for the LLC, so no one is unhappy. But the fact is that the dominance is overwhelming. Primeleague, Superliga, and Ultraliga only got 1 team on the quarterfinals, and they had to sweat a whole lot to get their teams in there. Agorog has a story of overcoming these difficulties with Bin serving Leon on the support role. So, guys, how do you feel? Because the Ultraliga, how I feel the Ultraliga main issue during these years is like, and I talked with the fake one about this in another podcast, is like, you guys can't stop sending talent abroad. You have to develop a whole bunch of new players year after year after year. If you don't send it abroad, you promote them to the LEC. And it has to be really hard for you.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, with the Ultraliga and with the slots, is that in this system, you know, that distributes the slots, we are still counted. I mean, our results from 2020 still counts, and this was the golden era of Polish scene, because at that time we didn't send our talent abroad, but we like collected it in Ultraliga. We had huge investments, and because of that, we still are in this spot where we should be awarded from our results, but we look at our current talent and we feel like we just don't deserve those slots. I feel like 2 teams are what we deserve for now. So yeah, it's a really strange situation that we ended up being in, and I hope it will make us stronger later on, and that our scene will still have a lot of talent, but we'll be able to keep them. Because for now, yeah, we still have players, for example, like Harpoon, like Marlon from Timeska Gaming. We still have Lackers in Mivak, right? We still have those other players that came from the Baltic League as well during this season. But it's still really hard to keep them, and I know that there are offers for Harpoon and Marlon, and if we're gonna lose them now, it's gonna be even harder during next splits. So yeah, it's really hard to say how it will evolve during the next months.
Like, we steal a lot of players from Ultraliga, like a lot of players.
Yeah.
I mean, that's potentially, I won't call it an issue per se, but I'll call it a factor of this being like effectively a talent pipeline system, right? This is not the end goal for most of these players, right? You want to get to the LEC or another league if you can. You want to potentially, or if not that, then at least to like an EU Masters winning team. And like sometimes means that actually, if you're good players and then teams like KarmingCorp just come in and like, yep, here is 2 million euros to come and play for us for the next year. I mean, I'm exaggerating a bit, but like, you know, teams come in with money, or the LEC comes calling. Actually, you end up draining your talent pretty consistently. You don't end up with a full development cycle per se, because of, if you're a good player, you end up being scouted by other teams with ambition or money or both, right? And that is part and parcel, unfortunately. I'll call it a factor. There we go. It's not necessarily unfortunate, but it's a factor of the ERL system as it is, because it is here to an extent to develop talent, and that means that talent gets pulled up occasionally.
Yeah. And the fact is that it happens to every small region. Ultraliga is another case, in my opinion, because they are a major league that are continuously exporting talent, sending talent, sending talent abroad. And I was talking
money in other teams, right?
Yeah, money. I mean, it happens all the time. The teams with money are the ones calling the shots, and you can do anything about it. I was talking with the other one, with the fake one, sorry, about this, and it was like 63 Polish players are active right now around the world. 63, 30 of them are playing Ultraliga, but 33 are playing abroad. Even one on the LCS. I mean, that's absolutely crazy.
And he's winning the LCS. Important as well.
but it's absolutely crazy. And on the other side of the Primeleague, we were discussing, in my opinion, they fell short, and it's quite saddening because the Primeleague, I think the Primeleague don't reach a finals, European Masters finals since 2019. It was our last finals as well. It was Giants versus Big.
It was good finals, that.
It was good finals, I have to say. It was good finals. Even we lost that one. But yeah.
Wait. Gamer Legion was in the final.
Oh yeah, that's true. Gamer Legion was in the finals. That's true.
Because they won against Agorok, and then we took problem night from that round.
That's true. Sorry, Primeleague.
And all those players disappeared because guess what? Talent Factory.
Yeah. It happens all the time. Yeah. But it's a pity because Primeleague used to be a powerhouse in the ERL system. We used to be 3 years ago. We used to be as well. But the wheel keeps going on. And I hope for us better times in the future. I mean, the question is, what have done the LFL and the NLC to develop their talent and be the current powerhouses? This needs to be the question. And I asked initially, but I want Rev to talk. And Rev, what do you think they have done well?
Well, first and foremost, I would say it's money. Okay, that brings everything. That can bring a good crew behind the team. That can give you a gaming house, which let's say in the minor ERLs is not a common thing. In Greece, there's no gaming house among any of our teams. And then it's the culture and the viewership with the question mark, because I've seen that in the French culture, in the Spanish culture as well, you take the league games really seriously. It's not just a hobby, it's not just a kid's game anymore. Now it's a whole-fledged entertainment sector where people go and get entertained and pick sides and then cheer for the sides and so on and so on. So I think all of those people behind the scenes and attending any LAN event, any special event, which give power, because when people see when teams see people, they know that they have entertainment power, and with that they can get sponsors, they can get a bigger budget, and with a bigger budget you can afford better players and better the better environment for those players. And I mean, players don't care only about the money, but if you tell me, hey, come play with us, we have a gaming house and 3 coaches and a psychology coach, and you'll get paid the same as Greece, I'll still go to the better environment factor, because that's where I can grow. And all of those most of those players are looking to grow. That's what the ERL systems are for.
Yeah, and one investment attracts another one, and it's all snowball effect, right? Because if you see that there's this big team that you want to join, right? And they pick the best players. You want to practice with them, you want to play with them, you want to beat them, right? So you want to join the league in order to play with them. And because you join, if you are a decent player, maybe other people will be attracted to it. And it makes some leagues really strong, but it makes the smaller regions want to go to the bigger ones, right? And it makes us makes our environment like it cuts in a half, right? We have those bigger leagues and we have the minor leagues, even though they are not necessarily minor leagues, right? For example, I treat Ultraliga like a minor league because of the level of the investments, even though we are the major league in the system, right?
Yeah.
And I cannot really find the solution because if it will happen year after year, right, we may end up in a situation where there are only LFL and LVP teams that, or NLC, right, teams that are really treated as like good teams that can win EU Masters, and I'm really scared that this may be the case.
Yeah.
But there are upsets every year. I mean,
Oh,
every
yeah.
single year.
Yeah,
There are upsets.
I mean they are, but now we have 3 LFL teams in the quarters, right? And it's just the beginning.
But we are going to beat them all. We as an alliance, guys.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure.
We're
It's gonna
gonna win.
happen.
I mean,
To weigh on this briefly before I think we kind of want to move on potentially. I think there's a lot of that sounds really true for the LFL because obviously they've got incredible amounts of investment, and part of that as well is just I think they've also done a really good job of growing the league, not just the investment, if that makes sense, because the viewership and the engagement from the fans is just incredible for the LFL. Like, did you guys see the advert where Vin Diesel Diesel did an advert in French for the LFL?
but we had Vin Diesel in Spain as well.
Wait, did you really? What? That's where's Vin Diesel doing all these adverts? Anyway, the point's still kind of like.
But that was last year. That was last year.
Like there is this element of like, okay, they've really built up the prestige of the region. It's also, yes, there are resources here, but also it's kind of a place like, okay, well, I can't quite be an LEC, but I can be in this league where there's still this kind of crazy level of like, it's second best, right? And then there's some orgs in that league that very much have aspirations of getting into the LEC, like KCorp. It's no secret they're trying to make their way up there, right? Even LDLC, right, is a very, very long-standing and well-respected org, right? Like, they've had everybody from Kadril to Bjergsen to Crownshot to Niski. Like, they've got like 10 or 12 current or former LEC players that have been through the doors for them. Like Bjergsen, before he ended up at Copenhagen Wolves, was there. That kind of, as I said, it was like that kind of stuff. I think it's still different for the NLC, though, because I don't think we have that level of investment. We don't have that level of viewership, really, because we're in a really weird position, actually, with making a regional identity, because we're not tied really to one country, and we're tied to a few, and that's been, I think that's still an ongoing thing, right? Still trying to find out what our region is on that front in terms of broadcast and fan group and all the rest of it. But I think what we have always had is a very top-heavy league where the academy teams at the time would invest decently because they would use these players to prop up their LEC rosters. He's CXL, right, when they had Marcoon and Advien, right, who kind of like were looking to be EU Masters winners, and then they got pulled out of the team last summer, literally before they went to EU Masters, and the team bombs out because they lost their 2-star players. That's kind of not happened this year as much, but X7 came in, right, and they've basically they have had the investment, but a little bit unlike some of the other teams, but they have had the investment. So, yep, we'll buy Haru and Tempt, which is a bit insane, really. Like, here's a guy who's got a skin in the game and a former LCK mid lane who's been playing against Faker and Chovy and BDD and, Showmaker and all these other incredible World Championship winning or World Championship caliber players. So the NLC is a bit of a weird spot where I still feel we're quite top heavy. And there is a worry where if the kind of, we'll call it like kind of hedge fund investment, not quite sure what you call it, like the venture capital investment, right, into some of these teams, doesn't end up with tangible results, that could collapse again quite quickly. I think X7 have been pretty clear that they as well, I believe, have aspirations of doing what KCorp are trying to do and getting into the LEC if they can, if there's an expansion. They're trying to push for that, I know. Or at least they were talking about that a little while ago. That will be interesting to see how things are in, say, another year and a half, right? A year even. So that's still a bit of a question mark for me.
But I mean, the LLC is doing something right because it's not happening by chance 3 times in a row. So it's not
No,
happening
no,
by
exactly,
chance
like-
three times in a row.
Oh, no.
You could say DLC was a region that was dependent of his academy teams at the times that BTX, UOL, and Fnatic Rising were the ones reaching
Yeah, I mean,
European
this
Masters.
is the first time we've not sent academy teams.
Yeah.
Actually, we've sent Bifrost in it, which is great. I think Bifrost did a really good job team building. I think Bifrost were a bit of a surprise, but they just built a really good team.
Were you a
Kinda out of
Bifrost believer?
I am a Bifrost believer. I am absolutely a Bifrost believer.
But were you at the beginning of the tournament?
Yes.
Okay,
I was not once I saw some of their play-ins games when they got a little bit smashed by Unicorns a bit, but or rather I saw the flaws and I was like, oh, they're still haunting them a bit. But yes, I believe they really, really are a fantastic team with some really, really strong strengths, just also pretty obvious weaknesses. It's a bit of an odd team on that front.
But the fact is that even for a small audience league, the LLC is doing something great because they, for example, I mean X7, yes, they have higher on Tempton, of course. That's absolutely crazy. But the three other players were playing in Superliga last year. Day 3. Kassing is Superliga champion, but Nata was demoted to second division. And suddenly they are the perfect combination. I mean, they are the perfect combination, and it's really nice to see these players thriving in another league. And as a Superliga caster, Superliga needs to think what is not only LFL, because I mean LFL, we all know what they are doing right. They have everything. They have the talent, they have the investment, they have the invested fans as well.
Viewers, all of it, yeah.
They have everything. They have everything. They are perfect, and we hate them because they are perfect. That's the fact. But we need to think, and we need to be critics with ourselves. And I really want to get back to 2018. What we used to
Same.
do. What we used to do.
Oh no, I'm quite happy with where we are. Thank you. We can stay right in this era.
Red,
Thank you.
we were beasts in 2018. I mean, Panathinaikos versus Mad Lions. What a game! What a game was that?
It was half of Copium for us as well, but I think, to be honest, we'll need to stop comparing any region with the LFL because they're
No,
really,
it's not fair. It's not fair.
yeah, they're really faking the data on any point, on the caliber of the names that they bring to the region. Like Reckless versus Cody Sun was a 2019, I think, Worlds matchup in the bottom lane.
Right?
Absolutely
And then
crazy.
they played in the LFL, and Cody Sun didn't even go to the playoffs. It's crazy. So I think we should avoid looking at them because it really brings up all the negative emotions, all the
It makes me
wrong
sad.
conclusions for all the other regions, and have to
Yeah.
focus within all the rest. Because you're all mentioning oh, we have a team in quarters, a team in semis, and it's not a success because we're not in finals. But it is a success. Only 2 teams can be in the finals, so all of the regions have a really small percentage to be there, considering one of them most likely will be from the LFL. So there's only
Sure.
one more spot. You need to start focusing on the other side. What can you do to be better from the rest? And then, bit by bit, maybe we'll reach the LFL.
Free has a great point, and I'm going to read it because he said, "I think big reason LLC teams performing good last 3 EU Masters. No one expects something of them. No pressure is
It's
way
really
more on the
frustrating.
better regions." Guys, do you think that? I mean, Farouk is a pro player; he knows better than us. But is this really happening? Is the pressure a thing that makes the top players at the top teams perform and underperform on the not only on European Masters, because it happens on the ERL as well?
Is it? Because if it would be one of the Direct Legends team would always get to the quarters, so because nobody ever expects anything from us since 2018. So I don't think that's the whole story. That may be half of the story. That's a nice little touch over there, initialize.
Is that a Flacket reference? Is that a Flacket reference?
I
Because
think
that's
it's a
bad.
Dublin reference.
It's Nymera trolling me. I guess it is a Flacked reference now. It's
It also could be a
Happy
Dublin
birthday, Flacket.
reference. Yeah, happy birthday,
Happy
Flacket.
birthday. There you go. My tribute to you. Congrats on making MSI and winning the LEC. I guess the duck is staying.
And never making it to main event or European Masters. What's going on with our players? I mean, What's going on with our players? Guys, I mean, like, can you please stop doing this to me, please? I'm sorry, Rev, go on.
But that's the thing. You need to actually think that that's not the only case. There has been some development, and I think just discredited all the development, all the hard work from the orgs, not even from the players, because it all starts from the orgs and then pours down towards the players and what we see when we cast those games or when we see other regions play. Uh, it should not be discredited.
Yeah. I mean, like,
Otherwise, all of the minor regions would have a spot in the quarters and be extremely happy about it.
I agree with you on that level. Like, you should take pride in going above and beyond what's necessarily potentially expected of you, right? Or going in and knowing that actually we're up against incredible titans who've got all these additional advantages that against what we do, and we're still going to do a really good job, and you should take pride in that and be happy with that. On the other end of it, though, I think there is something to say for actually a lot of these players are really ambitious, right? They know that the ERL system is somewhere where all of these LEC teams are scouring for the next big thing, your next Caps, your next VTO, your next Flackhead, whatever names you care to mention, and turning up at something like European Masters and being good, winning, it is a massive deal in terms of the ability to get up to the next level, right? And I can understand that actually, screw that, fuck that, I don't want to be, like, happy with only making groups. I want to push for that bit further. I want to take down the NFL. I feel that we can do that. Like, I'm completely behind that mindset too. I don't want to undersell that kind of drive and ambition, considering, again, part and parcel of what the ERL system in EU Masters is supposed to be, right? Yes, there's prestige in winning it, but there's also an element of, like, this is a stage, a pedestal to put yourself on and say, hey, I am really, really, really good. Pick me up. You won't regret it. And especially if you are sometimes a bit overlooked, like sometimes the NLC has been, because forever one of our teams will suck and the other one will be good. For various reasons, I will always be upset about XL because, again, they lost their two best players to go up to the main stage just before going to EU Masters, and that made them look bad. Anyway,
and they never get to playoffs that year, so that's another thing,
right? But like, there is I think taking an underdog story and say, hey, actually, that story is wrong. We think we're better than that. Let me prove it to you. And actually have the ambitions to say, actually, we could be a semis team. We could be a finals team. X7 are in it to win it, right? Bifrost came in with a team of ridiculously veteran talent, like Odie, Shikari, the whole lot of them actually been playing for years. Yeah, they've like, and they really want to come in and say, yeah, we're not just some team to be ignored. And yes, we might not be from the LFL, but goddamn, we're going to take some skulls while we go and show why we should be considering that echelon. And I will not begrudge teams and players that mindset either. For all that I agree, there is something to be said for being proud of going above your means, so to speak.
And I want to
Rant over.
I want to go on with a topic I was thinking about, because we were discussing about the greatest leagues of the European Masters, but every year we used to have an upset, have a minor region team in quarterfinals. Last year, for example, it was Supap making it to quarterfinals, and we're taking away a game from KCorp in a best of 3 series. Best of 3. That sounds really a long time ago. But this year it feels like the minor regions fall short. I don't know why. They have some talent. For example, I expected a lot from Entropic, but they couldn't even reach the main event. So what do you think, Rev, as a representative of a minor region that happened this year?
Oh, I think, first of all, that the discernation between accredited and non-accredited ERLs and forcing the systems to be different really did take its toll, because we're playing less game, first of all. We have only 8 teams, our playoffs are cut short, whereas all the major ERLs have 10 and they have the full playoffs bracket, and that's all the more competitive action. Our tournament winner, Team Phantasma, did go through the bottom bracket, but the bottom bracket right now was 1 game. Imagine if it was 2, if it was 3. They would have been more challenged. They would have discovered more weaknesses, know what they were doing a bit more, because scrims many times give fake data. We've heard that times and times again. Vitality was perfect in scrims, but there they were, only 5th in the LEC. That's one thing. And the other thing is, I think that we still do not take ourselves as seriously as we need to do. We need to really drop the culture of, hey, this is a hobby, and start taking it as a full-time job. I think we were discussing that before the show as well, that it is a fully fledged section of society. It goes into the entertainment, and esports are here, and they're showing that they're here to stay. They're still growing year after year, and many of, especially Balkan countries, or I don't know, Mediterranean countries, are way too behind in realizing that. They're just, okay, it's just a simple game, the children play, they shouldn't go against their education, and that keeps especially young talent behind. But because, for example, we have a really young talent, he got into the finals, he was in the planes with WL Gaming. Everyone saw him, Vladi. He was popping off every game, even
Okay.
though they uh, did not manage to get
It's
to the
great.
knockout stage. He's 16 years old. He just got 16 years old. He doesn't even have a cell phone, as far as I know. And he still goes to extra private lessons for his formal education. And that stuff keeps him behind, because if the parents do not realize that this is a full time job and this is an opportunity for the child to grow and do what he actually loves, it really keeps him behind. And that's only one example. I
I mean,
can't even imagine how
It's
many
hard.
examples are there that
I
we
mean,
never
I
heard
can
of.
think of two or three from the leagues I've cast, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure Noah, Piotr, you guys could probably think of
Yeah.
names from behind me. Actually, these guys have had to had to
Rip
drop out
back.
or have given
No,
it up
Flack.
because he's gone to destroy the Death Star because it's a Star Wars dark. But there you go.
I mean,
Anyway,
it is
it's
hard.
fine. I
It
was
is hard.
interrupting a very serious point.
I mean, it is hard um to put yourself full time. Moreover, if you are a 16-year-old player, I mean, there are so many things
Well,
ongoing.
that
You
makes it
have
difficult.
studies. You have to take care of your future, of course. But it is hard, and I mean, I would always say
Support,
that
not
studies are the necessity. And if you can study and you can play league, that's perfectly fine. If you perform in both sides, but. You were talking, for example, at the beginning of your speech about the bracket system on the minor regions. I have to say, I'm not an enjoyer of the new playoff system on the ERL. I don't know, Piotr, what do you think? Because I'm really missing something on this playoff system. In my opinion, quite biased of what happens on the regular split. And for example, last year our 2021 finals, summer finals, was the fifth versus the sixth. With this new playoff system, that is not possible. It's simply not possible.
Mhm.
And I don't know, Piotr, what do you think about the playoffs system in the ERLs? Oh, your answers? Okay, now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
it
yeah.
okay? Okay, all right. Well, I mean, for us
And
in
now there you go. We got
Juliana.
you.
Oh, wait,
What?
wait. I don't know what happened.
I
Okay,
hear you.
so I'm
I
gonna
hear
keep
you.
talking. Okay, okay. Okay, that's good. So, for example, in the Ultraliga, in our playoff system, we are still learning new things because we've been having this smaller league format for years. Because we had 8 teams with 6 advancing to the playoffs. Now we have still. Oh no, sorry. We had 8 slots with 5 teams in the playoffs. Now we have 10 with 6. So it's a little bit different right now. Um, and I feel like it was actually okay for us during this split because we've had a lot of really close fights in the lower bracket. For example, Team SK Gaming that had to prove their strength. They played against Zero Tenacity, they played against Iron Wolves, and they have been able to beat them even though they were stronger. But uh, in other ERLs, I think it may not be that good as in the Ultraliga. Um, but I feel like I miss a lot of context because I was not able to like watch the minor leagues because yeah, there's quite a lot of
So much.
league stuff to
You have a
cover.
lot of
Yeah,
work.
yeah,
There's a lot of ERLs.
There's a lot
yeah,
of
yeah,
going.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah. Being a
I can
caster.
give you some context. We had 4 best of fives, with 3 of them ending in 3-0. So
Okay.
that's how it went.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't sound really good.
Well, we had 2 trios in a row in Superliga as well.
Yeah.
And it was Bisons. Bisons.
Yeah,
Just to play with my
what was it?
heart and go 1-5 in the European Masters, that is not okay. That is not okay. I'm not happy about that. I'm looking at you, Bisons. Just saying. Tell me, Alicia.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, it happens.
I think at least for us, the NOC, I think the playoff system was pretty good, mainly because actually it did kind of reward playing well in the regular season or across the regular season. Right? So the idea, I don't know, I think it's the same for most. I'm not quite sure, but obviously we basically got an upper bracket, but only for the top 2 teams.
Yeah, it's the same everywhere.
And I'm pretty sure that's exactly what it is, and that was pretty cool in the end, because actually then there was a crazy we had an insane lower bracket run from Dusty, who very nearly ran the whole gauntlet, but then Bifrost smashed him in the semis. But we had this 5-game series between Bifrost and X7, and Bifrost 3-0 Dusty to try and go rematch them in the finals, and then Bifrost 3-0 in the finals. No, sorry, then X7 3-0 in the finals, so they learned from their mistakes, basically. So for us, it was pretty good, and I'm generally a fan, but I also kind of came from the LJL, where it's the same system. So the Japanese league, for people who aren't aware of the acronym. And I think it's a pretty good way of rewarding the teams that did well. I think it kind of sucks if you are the 3rd team. I think Team 3 is really sad, because then you're right back in round 1. You don't get the upper bracket. You've got to play at least an additional potentially you've got to play 4 best of series to get to the final to win the finals potentially at that point. So there's a really harsh cutoff between 2 and 3. But I think for a 16 playoffs, I think it's pretty cool. I think. Especially because otherwise you end up with a very elongated schedule. So I think largely I like it, but it also worked out pretty well, and it led to pretty exciting playoffs for us. That might not have been true for the rest of you guys.
Moving on with the European Masters, because we have been discussing a bit on the ERLs and what happened, for example, on the minor regions. I think it's time to talk about the knockout stage, guys. So, knockout stage! Let's talk about the knockout stage. If you missed the European Masters, I'm going to put a bracket for you guys on there, because we're having these exciting matchups for the next, not the next week, this week. Today is Monday and I forget. LDLC versus X7. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, Initialize. You got a really top side of the bracket.
Oh.
We're having tell me.
I'm trying not to hyperventilate. We'll talk about it later. It's a tough top side of the bracket for us. It's gonna be fine.
Okay. Okay, I'm crossing fingers for you guys. We have the Bifrost versus Egorog, and we're gonna discuss this one because we have representatives from both regions. We have a KCorp versus EUniverse a lot Sex Edition. It's important, the last part. And we have the Vitality V versus Fnatic Team KCorp, which I expect to be not that exciting, and Fnatic wins with no problem. Please, Fnatic, please don't play with my heart anymore. And this is these are our quarterfinals, guys. Initialize. How do you feel? You're facing a really tough side of the bracket. How do you see the chances for your NLC teams?
I think it's a bit interesting, because I think in a lot of ways it's a bit sad to face LDLC in the first round, because I think for my money and a lot of
it's finals material. That game is finals material.
A lot of players were saying, like, look, X7, LDLC, 2 of the front runners to win the whole damn tournament, and they're meeting in the quarterfinals. For the rest of the teams, particularly on the other side of the bracket, they're like, yes, getting rid of one of the major rivals for us, and then actually they're on the other side of the bracket to us anyway. Like, that's a huge relief to the bottom side of the bracket. I think for X7, should they beat LDLC, and I think they've actually got a fairly okay matchup there. It's a very interesting matchup. We'll have that conversation when we talk about it a bit more. I think they're actually in with a pretty okay run, because I think they'll match up just fine into Bifrost or go Rogue. And then they kind of depends who they get in the finals, because I think KCorp had a bit of a good read on them, but I think if you get them that far, it would be nice to see how well they adapt at that point. But it's kind of like, okay, we're starting off with the absolute monster opponent. And then actually, if you can get past it, you've got a pretty great run. So for them, I'm okay. I think Bifrost are...
For race in the chat, remember.
Yes. So, I mean, like, I am a Bifrost believer. And I actually think, I think they can, I think it's a doable match. I think they can definitely win that one. I think the other thing is, like, some of the inconsistencies from Bifrost, shall we say, where they flip early game horribly and either smash it or go 10,000 gold behind, is less of an issue in a best of series where you can kind of drop a game and it won't be the end of the world because you can just run it back the next game and be just fine, and you can kind of adapt a bit. And so I tend to think that the Bifrost in a best of series are a lot more stable than they are in a best of one. So I think they should be at least I think I will favor them in that matchup. But again, it's not an easy match. So that's kind of where I'm at with that one. And again, there's a very real world where Rabble makes C-Boy's life utterly hellish, especially if they can get him off the volley bear. So I don't want to talk about that.
Piotr may have something to say about this, because Initialize is saying that Agorok is a doable match. And I want to know your things about this.
Yeah, I feel like it's a close call. It's a tough game to predict because there can be so many scenarios that can happen. But I feel I mean I predicted Agorok to win, and I think it's a really strong prediction because of the style that both team prefer. I feel like Bifrost is really limited to one style. They funnel all of the gold into OD, and they're like, yes, play hyper carry, win us the game, team fight well, and it's all right. And it worked, you know? It's really strange because I feel like Bifrost is not that tough of an opponent for Agorok, but I feel like they have proven themselves, right? I should believe in them, but I still doubt them, right? And it's really strange because they've been able to beat BDS twice. They've been able to beat Fnatic Team Kesso. They came first in the group of death. So yeah, they should be the favorite, right? But I feel like that Agorok has really important advantage in the drafts because of the nature of those. We've seen so many crazy stuff from them, like starting from the standard game to a hyper scaling with Corki, Camille, and Jinx, then to jump into a Rengar Ivern. It's so crazy.
Ooh, the Rengar Ivern.
What I'll say is, Bifrost are really used to playing against that kind of stuff. Like, really used to it. Because, I don't know whether you follow much of the NOC, but we had XL and X7, and then, like, a couple other teams as well who were running absolutely bizarre stuff. So we had, for example, MNS, XL's mid laner, was the global solo kill leader and played only LeBlanc multiple times. Every other champion he played only once. He played everything from a Felios. He played a Felios mid, by the way, to Kai'Sa mid and getting solo kills. Like, he was playing.
I have to say that I'm missing
Bifrost
MNS on European Masters. I was
he would have been a lot of fun. I think he's still got some growing to. He's a really good mechanical player. He's got some growing to do still to really, like, bring all of his game up to that level. But, like, Bifrost are super used to doing this versus against the likes of X7 and XL, and they beat it pretty consistently. I think XL was the one team they weren't so good against, but they've seen all of this before. They've got we haven't seen them do it too much at EUMaster, but they've done it themselves, right? They've run some weird drafts themselves. Like, Shikari's been largely relegated to weak side duty until they kind of pulled out some crazy stuff against Oscarinian and put him in the dirt. But they really can play a few other styles. They just haven't had to. I'm surprised we haven't seen Senna out of them yet, actually, because they're a really good Senna team, and that empowers Dual to play some weird stuff. So I say they're pretty experienced against playing it against it already, and they've already got a few cards they've yet to show, which is quite interesting. So we'll see. I kind of agree. They do tend to default when possible to get OD on a crit carry, and he will just team fight his way to victory, and Furion Veigar will help out. Ornn for Shikari. Wonderful. But it's not the only thing they can play, even if it is their preferred style.
Rev, as a third-party agent in that best of 5 series, what are your thoughts on that game?
Well, to be honest, Agorok has had some really interesting early game strategies and drafts. I think that they have a slight advantage of that, but I think that Bifrost is a special kind of team. Okay, when they are on an even footing with the enemy team, they are quite strong. But when the game hits the 35-minute mark and they are 8k behind, they are even stronger, and I really don't
Understand.
know how it's possible. So I really think that the games will go as follow. If Ragnarok will get the early game advantage, but if they cannot close out the game by the 25th minute mark, I think they're gonna be a hell of a game, some really good fiestas, and oh my god, Bifrost has have some really good Mexican hats.
Yeah, that's probably quite true.
I have to
agree
say
with
that
you there.
I
For
was
all that, like,
surprised.
yeah.
But I was surprised by Egor preparation for the last day. I was really impressed.
Ivan
Because
Rengar, baby, so much fun.
I mean that was absolutely crazy. So we've been stuck on this Bifrost versus Egor Rock. If you want to kill yourself, then do it off camera. And we talked about the LDLC versus X7, but just a little bit because I think this is, as I said, finals material is going to be a crazy, crazy, crazy game. You have two XLCK players going in there versus the most consistent team from the LFL. For a lot of people, these two teams are favorites to win the tournament, like the whole tournament. I would say, other than other than the LFL teams, like I'm not even saying the team by team, like LFL teams. Which teams are favorite to win the tournament? Were before the tournament started X7 and maybe Fnatic. Those were the favorites.
Yeah.
But and this is finals material. It's going to be a crazy game, guys. You have to watch it because it's going to be insane. X7 has struggled a bit the last league. A bit. You have to acknowledge it. They struggled.
Yeah. So this is what I will say is, this is what X7 do sometimes, and credit particularly to KamiCorp, actually Team Phantasm as well with that fantastic early game, where X7 love to basically when they draft it properly, and this happened very well the first week, it didn't happen quite so well the second. They will basically draft to give Haru as much priority as they possibly can, and Haru will go absolutely ham. And Tempt will back him up because Tempt and Haru were just on the same page all the time. And then if they can, they'll leave Nata to his own devices and get Kasing out on the map to make some other plays as well around mid and wherever Haru is. And they will basically say, whoever Haru can find, they will fight and they will win. And they trust that to happen every single time. The problem tends to come in 2 points. One, where that early play doesn't work out quite so well, either because they don't have the same amount of insane priority in lanes to facilitate that as well as they'd like, or they lose the flip, basically, because they will flip it on that. And you saw that versus X7, versus 113, where actually that first game was pretty good for a bit, but they were smashing 113's Jin Zhao every single time, and then you kind of realize on the other side, Reckless was getting massive amounts of leads over Nata, and that was problematic, and then they overdive in the mid game. And then you saw the other ones with versus Phantasmo, like in both games where Haru goes super ham and gets punished. And they come back because they're really good and they'll just take the flip every other time and beat them later on. But it's still a problem, right? Or it's still a characteristic, right? Where if you can beat them in the early flip, you can get some stuff out of them. The other one is you hit the mid game, and X7 have a monumental lead, and you saw this a few times in the NLC as well. They get a monumental 7,000 odd gold lead. They're playing Yasuo Diana. Kasing's built Zonya's first on Leona, beaten every dive you try to kill him, and he's solo killed your 3 members as a Leona because he's just styling at that point. And you're having this kind of one of those games. And then they'll overdive, and they'll take every other fight, and they're like 30 miles behind the tier 2 in the enemy blue side jungle, and they'll take a fight and get 0 for 5, and then suddenly they flip the game in the mid game because they get very arrogant with their leads. And they've done that one too. You kind of saw that one versus KamiCorp, where in the mid game they'd murdered 113 loads, and then Haru engages 4v5 as Tempters teleported away, and they get aced in the mid lane, and they lose the game. And that is the X7 special, where they are incredibly overconfident in the mid game sometimes, and sometimes a little bit overeager flipping in the early game.
Okay,
They could do
we
that
know
best for
that.
DLC.
We know that this is the strategy to win versus X7, just make them overconfident. I would like to move on because we have a KCorp versus Universe of Love Sex Edition. As I say, the last part is important. This is a very odd matchup because this is the last hope of the Primeleague, and it is incredible that it is your first seed, the one that is surviving, the one that is thriving, and they are facing KCorp that is maybe, and I want to know that maybe, the less scary team from the LFL. What are your thoughts, like Piotr? What are your thoughts on this game? You predicted KCorp. We're watching EUniverse predictions for the quarterfinals, by the way.
Yeah, so it's really hard to say something about KCorp, right? Because after first week, we've been like, yeah, this team is struggling. They have been smacked by X7. They couldn't even get a single kill during that game, right? So they shouldn't be that good. They didn't ended up really high in the LFL, right? So then there is the second round, right, of the group stage, and they absolutely elevated to another level. And Reckless was amazing, and I haven't seen such a performance from the AD carry in months, really. Like the difference that he was able to do by himself, it was crazy. And I feel like after that beating that Haru and Tempt did to him during the first game, he decided to quit Jinx for good, and it's gonna be only Zaya and Misfortune until the end of the EU Masters. Because with those early game AD carries, he can do like really great stuff. And we could have seen that potential, right, in that team. Uh, and even though I'm still not sure if they will be able to be on that level again during the BO5 series, um, after what I've seen, I'm really hyped about that team. I think they can achieve really good results during this tournament if they will be able to perform well. But on the other hand, we have UOL, that's really consistent team. I feel like those veteran players, such as IBO, such as Lurox, right, and the rest of the guys, they are still
Ruby, man,
not
yeah,
the
that guy's been everywhere.
yeah yeah. You cannot mess with them, right? Because they can punish the mistakes, and we've seen KC make those mistakes. For example, from the Huntera from 113, those were not the best games that I've seen, right, during my whole life. So I feel like KC will be the favorite, but I'm pretty sure this won't be a 3-0 series. I feel like UL can make some upsets, but I wouldn't bet on them winning the whole series.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
Rev, what are your thoughts on this versus 5 series? Because I have to agree with Piotr on the point that KCorp is no longer the perfect team, the one that never makes mistakes. They are no longer that team.
Well, to be honest, I think it's gonna be maybe the most exciting series to watch because I don't think that even though I predicted K-Cup that they have a huge lead over Unicorns of Love 6th edition, but on the other side, they were lucky enough to have X7 in their group and have X7 as a first opponent because they got slapped so hard that they realize that 113 and Huntera need to get leashed. They cannot do anything they want in the Rift. They need to follow a plan. And the only freedom 113 nowadays gets is to spam the ERL emotes throughout the whole of the game.
It's incredible.
But they really did
Just
wake
that
up
remote?
because, yeah, because KCorp between games 1 and 3 and KCorp from games 4 and 6 was a completely different beast. From their whole play style, from how they approached the game, from all the overextensions. Of course, they still had some weak points, but they were so much harder to find and even harder to execute upon them. So I think that they got stronger. They woke up really fast from that first lap against X7, and they are uh, a really frightening team. They might not win the whole thing, but I think they're getting really close, at least to the finals.
Okay.
So I gave it to Unicorns, but in some ways that's my upset vote. If you see what I mean, I think KCorp probably, as these guys have rightly enunciated, given credit to KCorp, probably being one of the teams that's looking to go and reclaim their title. They're back-to-back champions. They could go for a three-peat here.
Back to back.
Yeah, they could certainly. Those titles start to stack. Credit to Daniel Dracos for that line from a rap battle a few years ago. But like, I actually think Unicorns, if you are going to beat KCorp, you've seen how it's been done in the playoffs. You've seen how for the LFL. You've seen how it's been done in groups and stuff, and even in the play-ins where they were kind of when they did fall behind. It was, if you can attack the mid jungle and make sure Hantera is a bit aimless on the map, KCorp can fall apart like really hard early on. And even in that first game versus X7 in the second day of games for them, or the second round robin, so to speak. Second round robin, that's what I'm looking for. 113 got really attacked early on. If 113's on the back foot, he looks significantly more exploitable. You're up against Lurox and Ruby. That's two possibly the best performing mid jungle in the tournament, right up there. You could if you can get pressure in that lane and attack 113 by keeping Seiken under tower, you could really do some damage to KCorp. So I think they've actually got an okay matchup. If there was a team that could take on KCorp, I think they've got the tools to do it there.
Okay, now with this, we are moving on the last best of 5 series of the week, which is going to be Fnatic Team KCorp versus Vitality TV. I have to trust my boys from the Superliga, even though they have a quite disappointing last day on the European Masters. On Superliga, for you to have some insight, Fnatic only lost 2 games in regular season, 1 in playoffs. They didn't lose a game twice versus the same team. Never. They lost to two different teams, which I think it is kind of crazy. But they had a 0-2 week. They lost only 2 games, but they were on the same week. They have a very weak spot during their regular season, and I've seen the same Fnatic on the last day of the group stage, which makes me worry because the rest of the split, Fnatic played impeccably League of Legends. We were talking before the show started how Oscar was like, or 7-1 or 1-7, knowing between. And I was like, this is the Oscar I've always knew. Like, the guy always loved to play ultra aggressive and stuff, and this was his best year by far. He was MVP of the split in Superliga, and there was no questions about it. He was the best. He was the absolute best. Even when Fnatic was a bit weak, Oscar was there to save the team with great plays. And suddenly, it's like some pieces are falling apart, and I'm worrying a bit of Fnatic and KCorp, but I have to trust the guys to come back stronger. They are facing Vitality B, which I think is a very scary, quite a scary team, but I think it is doable best of 5 series. Initialize, you know the guys. I mean, Maxi, Bean, and Rooks were playing for the NLC. I'm sorry. It is what it is. Rooks was playing Superliga before it was an LC player. I think it is what it is.
We had him more recently.
But these are 3 players that not only reached European Masters finals last year, they went to the 5th game versus KCorp. So you can't fall short this time. You can't fall short. They are they are Superliga last hope, and we lost three teams last year in quarterfinals. So please, I want to make it to the semifinals. Don't play with my heart. So Fnatic and KCorp, please just do it. But guys, how do you feel about this best of 5 series? Because I want to know your opinions on this. Initialize.
a bit worried for Oscarinin versus Shigenda, because Shigenda's been, outside of the one game, incredibly consistent. And like he's been putting up very good stats. Like he's just behind the likes of Cabochard really in terms of stats across the tournament right now for likes of, like just as matters his damage percentage, DPM, the goal differences, all of that kind of stuff he's doing really, really well with. And Oscarinin has been a bit more flippy. And if you're going into a player like Shigenda who could potentially neutralize that, while Bean and Rux have not been as dominant as I think we were expecting. They've been really good, but then we saw like the Nami
and the Lucian
game that didn't really work out as well as they would have liked, and stuff like that. It's like makes me a bit nervous because Fnatic have been inconsistent and Vitality have really punished inconsistency thus far the tournament. I still think Fnatic are a good team. I just need to see them actually play like they did in the Superliga, please. I just don't know how doable that will be against the caliber player on Vitality B, because Skeens has been popping the hell off.
Yeah.
Shigenda is super stable. That could be a problem for Oscarinin, who's normally really important for being an MVP. Bean and Rux are going into Jessica and Jack Troll, who have both played up at the LEC. Like, yes, Bean played at Worlds. Yes, he did okay. He did a really good job there, slotting in a very late notice, and credit to him for that. But it's not quite the same as consistent top-tier experience.
Yeah.
And that level of experience and consistency, I think, possibly hurts them here. Even if I think Fnatic shouldn't feel like they're going in without a chance. I think it's just a bit of a tough matchup, because I feel Vitality be a lot, like, just behind LDLC in terms of the consistency out of that team.
But we predicted Fnatic. Everyone but you.
I know, I did. I voted for Vitality.
I know. You have some resentment in your heart.
I know, they betrayed me. I got beaned, and therefore I'm super angry about it.
I know you have some resentment in your heart. It is okay. It doesn't matter. We can understand you. But Piotr, you predicted Fnatic in this best of 5 series. How do you feel about the game?
I mean, it's for me, it's the second best game in the quarters, because I value X7 versus LDLC really highly. But it's a great game. I think it's gonna be a really close one, and I decided to go with Fnatic in my predictions, but it's a curveball in my predictions. I feel like it may not happen. I think it's a potential upset, because Vitality B is, like you said earlier, it's a really consistent team, but some of those players have the history of sometimes doing really questionable decisions. For example, Jacktroll and Skins. I feel like those two can really do some really messy stuff. But the question remains, are they going to do this 3 times in a row, right, during the series? I feel like they can do it once or twice, but after all, there will be those games that they will play on the highest level that they can do. And I feel like it's really tough task to defeat them if they are in a peak form. So it's a really hard game for me. As you mentioned before, the top lane will be really important role for this match. I feel like Oscarinin in his peak can do well against Shigenda, but I feel like we can just hope he will be as good as in the Superliga, right? Because it was a rocky tournament for him that far. But yeah, we can do a lot of analysis. We can like rewatch the games and stuff. But I feel like this BO5 will be a crazy one, and I think it's a match that we should all watch really closely, because it's gonna be a banger.
I'm really trusting Fnatic's blessing of not losing twice versus the same team. You can lose a game, but not to place. Yes, I'm crossing fingers on that. Red, how are you, what are your thoughts on this best of 5?
Well, to be honest, that was my upset vote, because on all accounts, Vitality looked like the stronger team throughout the groups. So they were more stable, they had a bit bigger heights. But I'm still waiting to see the Fnatic Team Queso from the Superliga, as the other guy said. And I think that the last day from the groups will serve to them as a slap. And last time I saw a slap, it woke up KCorp. So why wouldn't wake up Fnatic?
Well, okay, let's see. So these guys were our predictions for the knockout stage, for the quarterfinals. It's going to be quite a banger. Honestly, I feel like this best of 5 can go one way or another. I really feel this in every single best of 5 series. Honestly, it's like there are there are some games that are really close. For example, I feel like the Bifrost versus KCorp can go one way or another. After watching Fnatic and not trusting my league anymore, I can feel like the game can go one way or another. It's the same on KCorp, honestly. UOL, I love.
The LCX7, oh my god, that game is so... I don't even know what to think about.
I was saving that one for the end of this. I was saving that one for the end. Just respect it, please. But yeah, it's like you're having the strongest team in the LFL versus 2 XLCK players. And of course, you have talents such as Nata, like popping off on this tournament. It's like I've seen Nata carrying some games. It's going to be absolutely crazy. Guys, we've been here for 1 hour and a half, so I think it's time to close our 4th EUniverse live. Thank you very much for the people in the chat that were really invested onto giving their opinions, so we can check on them and comment them in the streaming. Thank you very much for studying my English. Like, I'm still tripping on my tongue and stuff. Thank you very much for my lovely guests, for Initialize to be here and being so enthusiastic about the LC teams. For Piotr, his first show in English. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure, and we'll be cheering for KCorp a bit. Not too much because Initialize may be angry.
You guys can. I don't need you guys to believe. I've got enough belief for all
You don't
of this.
need. Okay,
You
okay.
keep giving Bifrost that underdog buff. You see where it ends up.
I have to cheer for Bifrost because my boy Dual is there.
Dual is wonderful.
Dual is really wonderful. Really, you have two of the loveliest guys that ever stepped on the Superliga on the LLC. You have Dual and you have Casting, and I love both, and I want them to succeed, but not too much.
All I'm saying is you need X7 to win, because I got on broadcasting on the English broadcast a guarantee from Kasing. If he wins EU Master, he will do a meow live on air to be Katsing properly. So he will do in the post-game video proper full-on Nyan, meow, Katsing, full thing. So go check the interview. I have it on record. He will do it. So you need Kasing to win. If you need someone to back, just get it in there.
Okay. And thank you very much, of course, to Rev for joining us in here. It's been lovely. Thank you very much for being here. And well, we will meet again on next EUniverse Live, guys. Goodbye.